What's up, Marvelites, and welcome to a brand new episode of the MCUExchange podcast. This is episode 45. Woo! My name is Aaron. I'll be your host for this episode. Alongside me is Charles
What's up?
and Joe.
Hello. Oops.
Hey! What's that accent, Joe?
I
Is
was
that Arnie?
I'm inspired.
Oh, you're inspired this week. You have a different
You should
accent.
join the MCU. Like seriously, we need Arnold Schwarzenegger in the MCU.
Yeah, we already have
How-
Sylvester Stallone, so...
Oh yeah.
Okay, so this is gonna be a WandaVision-centric episode because, man, what an episode it was. Didn't
Yep.
really expect that. Let's dive right into it. 'Cause I know I'm gonna geek out in the next few minutes because the MCU is back, and not in a sitcom way, the real way, the real world
Yep.
way. Because, as we all know, Spider-Man Far From Home showed the impact of the blip, like in a comedic manner, right? So we saw
Mhm.
that, but WandaVision took it up a notch by showing the intimate manner of the blip and how people actually returned when Hulk snapped them back to Earth, to the rest of the universe. So we saw Monica Rambeau, Geraldine from previous episodes now. Monica Rambeau. For those unaware, Monica Rambeau is the daughter of Maria Rambeau, the best friend of Carol Danvers from 2019's Captain Marvel. She's all grown up now. Yay! So, so guys, when you're watching that scene, those scenes, like that opening scene, you just right there. What is your reaction, Charles?
Oh my god. I posted on Twitter. I was literally eating as the recap was happening, and then the cold
Mhm.
open drops. As soon as I saw the particles, I had to sort of sit, take a step back and say, "What is this? Is this like a dream?" And then she reconstitutes, and then I'm kind of like, "Oh, is that how she got kicked out of the barrier?" And then of course we hear the panic outside. We see people coming back, and I'm like, "Holy fuck!" They're giving us the blip. It actually looks better than the blip in Spider-Man, and
Yeah.
like right from the get-go, you're just kind of shocked at seeing it all go to shit, go to hell. Everyone's going crazy, and it just kind of shows the impact of Endgame as a whole because we don't see necessarily the blip and its true personal effects. We see a glimpse of it in Far From Home, but even in Endgame, we don't see everyone come back. It makes it seem like it's this grand heroic event where people are celebrating and just high-fiving. Well, in reality, it's like, holy shit, what happened? I was here just a minute ago, and why is everything so different? It kind of shows the panic and the true impact of Thanos' actions. And it just kind of amazes me that we got to see it in a WandaVision episode, and we got to see it happen to Monica out of all people.
Yeah, and it's absolute chaos from the get go. You see
Yeah.
the overall effect of the blip from Thanos and that. And then Joe, what's your reaction? I want to hear from you now.
Um, like I think the fascinating thing is this kind of showcases the advantage of what the MCU is that a lot of like a TV show. On one side, a lot of people like to compare it to a TV show where it's like always a story that keeps expanding. But what the MCU can do is like pretty much tell stories from any angle in any way. And like Charles said, like when we saw the blip actually happen in Far From Home, it was like this comedic, they're back into existence. But the series, like I didn't expect that this series would open this way. Like that wasn't something I thought, okay, we're gonna see
Yeah.
the blip happen. And it was such a fast because the effect was amazing. Like we never saw the effect of people like what was these circumstances? Were they just like really turned to dust and were they like dusted back? Did they just pop or flip back into existence? Now we actually have a feeling and know what happened. And we got like these different angles, this heroic event, we got this comedic event, and now we got the drama of your everyday life and you're just popped back into existence and have to face reality that time went on without you. And I think it was extremely well done. And it just like I was like as soon as I realized who she was talking about and why she was there, I'm like, oh my god, did they kill
Oh
off?
yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
wow, that's a huge move, considering she was such a huge character in Captain Marvel.
I didn't even realize like what she was talking about because
Mm.
so much is happening. You're kind of like, holy shit, it's the blip, it's the blip. you kind of don't even almost pay attention to what she's saying
Yeah.
to the nurse
Yeah.
or doctor, and when she sort of get when you sort of calm down and it's sort of try to understand what's happening, and then you're like, oh my god, her mom. Yeah, where's her mom? She died. Like, holy shit, she died 3 years ago. That was one of the crazy reveals as far as like you said, she's a great character in Captain
Captain
Marvel, and
Marvel.
to see her to know that she's gone, it's like, oh my god, wow.
It's a game-changing move there because we know that that event will have a direct effect in Captain Marvel 2.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's going to be referenced. And let's see, because 3 years, she died 2020. Wow, based on that canon.
It also
So
makes you wonder if Carol knows, you know?
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
and I
Yeah.
and I think she knew because we'll get to that later because of sword stuff. But what an opening scene! I
Uh-huh.
didn't expect that. Did you expect that, guys? No.
Nope. Nope.
And before we move on, since this is the post Endgame world, do you expect more scenes like that in other shows? Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Hawkeye.
Ooh.
What do you think,
Mm.
Charles?
I think yes. Um, Particularly they're gonna have like for Falcon and the Winter Soldier, they're gonna have to explain how Zemo got out because he's fucking in jail. Like what happened in the
Oh.
during the snap? Did he get snapped? It'll be interesting to see more and more of the more and more on characters who got snapped and who didn't get snapped because we don't exactly have a clear idea on who survived and whatnot. So I think they're gonna have to address it, and I think Falcon and the Winter Soldier seems like a good place to introduce more blip returns in the
Mm.
MCU.
Yeah, Joe, how about you?
I think the blip was such a huge, massive event. Like a lot of people always complain Marvel Studios didn't do any risks, didn't do anything huge, and like this was that kind of event that signals that you can use it in so many different angles. And I'm really excited and hope we also explore times before the blip happened, like during the time when everyone was gone, and exploring how their lives have changed, how that affected the world. Because we only really got a glimpse in Endgame. It was just kind of like implied that everything kind of went to shit, and that everyone was depressed for 5 years. That's pretty much how it felt. And now we're
Yeah,
seeing like these consequences, and life still kind of continued for some, and there's so much potential to explore in this storyline that I'm really interested. I definitely think that we're going to see a lot more of it moving forward.
yeah. And now, we move on to the next plot point here. It's the triumphant debut of Sword in the MCU because in the past episodes, just short glimpses, short teases, and now they made wow, their debut in the MCU, and we learned a lot. Starting off, who founded it? It was Maria Rambeau,
Yeah.
and she was pretty busy after the events of Captain Marvel, and it was
Mm.
pretty amazing that they managed to go under the radar throughout the Infinity Saga. We might they might have helped in some ways, but they didn't really they weren't even referenced by anyone. I think Nick Fury knows because given his connections to Rambo. And what do you think about that? Do you think that sword help in major events like Battle of New York, Thanos invasion? Joe, do you think that they somewhat help Shield or other organizations in that battle, or do you think that they stay under the radar?
Um, I think that like the thing is what's fascinating is that we don't know exactly how old they are. We only know that they were definitely founded sometime before the events of Infinity War.
Mhm.
So, but they made it sound like they've been around for a while. So my theory is that kind of Sword was founded by. We know that Maria Rambeau was one of the founders, similar to how Agent Carter was the founder of Shield. So that they built up this entire organization, but it wasn't like they were space focused. So what it sounded like before this whole, because the name is different from the comics. In the comics, they're all about space travel and space observation, while here they seem to be focused on general sentient weapons of any kind. So I think that originally they were pretty much an offshoot of NASA.
Hmm.
This sounds dumb. They probably are what, Space Force is supposed to be. That's what they pretty much are. And we see it like when he says that like Monica's grounded and all that. it makes me wonder, do they have a connection to that what we saw at the end of Far From Home, that perhaps, they still built up that connection. There was no like alien or sentient life in that station, which was also kind of a big aspect of SWORD, that they weren't just humans at some point. There's so many questions. I think they've been around probably before Hydra, the whole Winter Soldier event. I do think that Fury had a hand in when it was founded, and I think like originally you had the sword and shield of the government, and that was kind of how they were built up, and it just until Shield became what it was, but they weren't directly connected to it that anyone would start calling Hydra and Sword. So they had their own missions in space that just wasn't explored in the MCU until now, because the only space stories we had were Thor and the Guardians of the Galaxy, and Thor pretty much had Shield involved at the time, who probably were like that sentient weapon unit that Sword is now.
Yeah, and Charles can also answer the same question, but I have a follow-up to that. The thing is, at the top of my mind, the two characters that are aware of Sword's existence, is Nick Fury and Captain Marvel during the Infinity Saga. And which other character do you think is aware of their existence? Tony Stark, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, I think at least the main Avengers. I'm pretty sure Captain America knows. Like, it's gonna be hard to keep something like that a secret from him.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I think, thinking about who or when was Story created, I'd like to think maybe it was created after the Accords. It at least makes sense because it talks about sentient weapons, and the Accords were essentially passed to sort of oversee this whole thing. I'm wondering, if the Accords failed or something, or we don't even know exactly what happened to the Accords or how the Accords became in effect. I'm wondering if that was sort of an easy organization to put up. Now that everyone has superpowers, aliens are appearing left and right, chaos is like sort of happening all over the world. Seems like Sword is a very, very logical organization to found. You've got Monica Rambeau, who already has her experience with Carol and all the alien stuff. She definitely has the perfect resume for the job. So I am wondering if it was created, as a response to the Accords, but we'll never know. But yeah, I think people like Tony Stark, Captain America, Black Widow. I think like it's gonna be hard to keep something like that from Black Widow. At least all the top tier Avengers were aware.
Bruce Banner.
Bruce, maybe. I mean, at this point, it seems like the whole team probably knows, but it is interesting to sort of see them just plop in this organization out of nowhere. And without any sort of explanation. But I hope we find out exactly what the history of Sword is.
Yeah, and just want to dissect here based on that episode, because I have this running theory that I wrote a feature about it yesterday after the episode, because there's a particular line here from director Tyler Hayward, the director of Sword, the acting director of Sword during that timeline. He revealed that Sword shifted away from manned missions and refocused on robotics, nanotech, and AI. So maybe Sword is just, as what Joe said, an offshoot of NASA, and they're only focused on astronaut training programs like that, and then space-based affairs basically. And then when these otherworldly threats came to Earth, Battle in Europe like that, Chitauri, they refocused their efforts to monitor potential threats from space. That's why they have that astronaut training program. And then when the blip happened, and then their personnel was like depleted, of course, because of the blip. So they were focused on focusing on robotics, nanotech, and AI, and then maybe Tony Stark helped them to have some sort of blueprint of these are my technology, you can make use of it, because and there's scenes in that episode that like resemblance of Tony's technology, like that right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I could see like the big thing about Stark Tech is that they moved away from weaponry, so I could see them having and being involved as like a tech support company with developments and stuff like that. plus the nanotech, that was something that was introduced in Infinity War with the latest suit. So it wouldn't be, that far-fetched in reality.
Yeah. Let's now move on to the characters, guys. The returning MCU characters here. Before WandaVision premiered, everyone theorized that Jimmy Woo, Darcy, are all working together with Monica within Sword. But the latest episode proved that's not the case because they're still independent, working independently. Because Jimmy Woo is currently with the FBI, and he's just working with Sword, while Darcy is Doctor Darcy Lewis. Wow, from an intern to a doctor of astrophysics. She's now back. And first reactions to the return, Charles.
Jimmy Woo's very, very nice welcome. I'm surprised how much I liked him here because during Ant-Man and the Wasp, I didn't like him that much. Like he wasn't as endearing to me there as he was here. Here because maybe because we get more of him because he's not like a bumbling idiot the whole time. I feel like I appreciate his appearance more here. Obviously, when he meets with Darcy, he does the card trick, which is a fantastic callback to his magic trick in Ant-Man 2. But he's definitely one of the characters that's a very surprising welcome for me. As for Darcy, I think I could probably say the same thing too because for the most part, at least for the first two Thor films, she didn't sort of, she was just kind of there for comic relief and nothing more.
Yeah.
But now it's kind of like holy shit, they're finally giving her stuff to do, and I think it absolutely works. It's just so mind blowing to me how some of these sword agents are like talking down to Darcy, like she's not fucking, like she wasn't like the first person to make contact with Thor. If you think about it, probably none of these sword agents have ever met an Avenger apart from Monica, and here they're treating Darcy like an intern they can fire at a whim when she's probably more qualified to deal with this shit more than anyone. I just find it funny, but yeah, I'm glad that Darcy is finally getting to do some stuff that is super crucial and important.
Totally agree. Joe, how about you? Reactions to Darcy and Jimmy's MCU return in WandaVision?
I'm always happy to see these characters. I think one of the best part of the entire game is these characters and their interactions and seeing them grow. Like the card trick, I loved. It's such a small nod, and reality has no consequence on the rest of the series in any way. But it just shows that these characters are evolving into this ever growing world. I just love Jimmy. I loved him in Ant-Man and the Wasp. Sometimes it was like a few times they tried a bit too hard or they forced it in because he was more the guy who was just running around. But here he feels like an essential cog pretty much in what's going on and trying to solve the mystery. And I love Jimmy's the softball comment was just probably the funniest joke in the whole episode for me. And it's just this guy he's just emotional. He's just like a very honest, down to earth guy, which is ironic considering he was an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. in the comics. So I think he would have been a terrible S.H.I.E.L.D. agent because he would constantly tell everyone everything.
Yeah.
It's great to see him back. And Darcy, I was always confused about the general reception of Darcy as a character. Yes, she was mostly comic relief, but I actually really enjoy the original Thor and Thor: The Dark World for the comedy. I think it was surprisingly hilarious at times. So and even my stepfather, he still says to Mjolnir Mew Mew because of that film.
Yeah.
But it's great to see them back. I think they're fleshing them out more, and I really hope that this isn't a one and done kind of deal, that they're not going to show up for another 10, 15 years. I do hope that this leads to potentially more with these characters.
Yeah. I wish a Darcy Jane reunion in Thor: Love and Thunder. Who knows? I don't know. There's a lot of potential. So these characters are awesome. So basically, their chemistry is great. Their dynamic is great. Their bond is great in that episode, and you can see it. You can feel it upon watching it. And you know what, guys? Episode 4 is like every MCU fan watching the first 3 episodes, right? Because they're listing down notes. They're note taking. They're literally watching episode 1 in an old TV, right? That's That's just meta for me.
It,
And
it's such an interesting meta concept in general, like that they're I never thought like when they did the sitcom approach that the characters in the world are gonna watch through the sitcom TV.
yeah,
That surprised me. That was a huge surprise. But it's kind of it works. It just extremely works and they can make some fun nods about us as the viewers.
yeah. And I have this favorite line from Jimmy Woo, and he really said, "So you're saying that the universe created a sitcom starring two Avengers? That's us. That's us weeks before
Yeah.
WandaVision."
So the world so the universe is named Feige, I guess.
Yeah,
Probably,
or
yeah.
Marvel Cinematic Universe is placed in there. So it's amazing. And in that in that board where he's writing all those questions, why hexagonal shape, why sitcom, same time and space, is Vision alive? There's this one Easter egg that I want us to dissect here.
Uh-huh.
It has he mentioned scrolls in there. He
Oh,
mentioned,
really?
yeah, he
Yeah.
wrote something. Let me find that exact quote. What's behind this? Scrolls, question mark. That's the term. And it makes me wonder if in the post endgame world, do the FBI and Sword are are they aware of scrolls? What do you think about that, Charles?
Sword is 100% sure because Monica, or rather,
Yes.
Maria and Monica are, they're running that ship, so I'm pretty sure they know that. But I do wonder if the FBI knows.
Mm.
I don't know exactly what the hierarchy is for law enforcement and as far as intelligence agencies are in the United States, but I wonder if that's something they're gonna keep a secret from the FBI because I imagine that would be a problem. But you know, you also you gotta also compartmentalize and sort of keep these things as from the public as much as possible. So yeah, it's a pretty interesting Easter egg now that you're mentioning it.
Yeah, and he actually wrote that. He wrote that. No one wrote it. Jimmy Woo wrote scrolls specifically
Wow.
in that board. So yeah, Joe, what's a theory on that? Want to hear it?
Looking at it, it's funny that, in this kind of scenario, you go through every possible link that could be. So like these people pretending to be actors, but they have actual identities. You go, okay, it's just scrolls acting along or something. I can see anyone kind of knowing what a scroll is to come to that conclusion in some form or another. But you open up a good point, Charles. It's like, okay, why would the FBI be aware of that? Because there's so many different intelligence organizations in this universe that's kind of hard to say how does it fit together, what characters, what do they do, et cetera, et cetera. So in reality, it becomes this question of how much do they share? Did maybe the FBI actually, now that I think about it, considering that every data that Shield has collected was leaked online, wouldn't everyone know that scrolls exist? There are probably a
Yeah.
lot of conspiracy
Oh
theorists
yeah.
going
Oh
around in this
yeah.
universe.
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of probably had to get the FBI in. I still think to some degree that Sword will either take over Shield's original purpose or a Shield type organization returns at some point. I'm still kind of sad that we lost Shield so early, just in general, because I like the concept of the organization in this universe. But I kind of it's such a hard thing to do, and I wonder if we're gonna get like a conspiracy QAnon-esque storyline down the line that plays with that fact and Secret Invasion. I could see that happening. That kind of
Yeah,
answers this question as well.
yeah. There's some conspiracy theorists that are like, are scrolls among us like that?" We're gonna put it down there. Let's now move on to another. We're talking about Easter eggs now because we've moved past that. Now we're talking about Wanda's actual reality, and Darcy mentioned that it's a CMBR. It's a unusually high levels of cosmic microwave background radiation, and which she defines as relic radiation dating back to the Big Bang. Okay, so it's a cosmic radiation, which is in Westview, which is weird because it's cosmic, but it's a pretty. It's a solid reference to based on my research right now. Like I'm just
Mm.
literally looking at something. It's a reference to, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not really a Marvel Comics enthusiast. So it's a that relic radiation is a reference to the raw energy of creation in Marvel Comics, which is the source of the Fantastic Four's powers.
Oh.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean,
Uh-huh.
the thing with the Fantastic Four stuff, it was never sort of specified what gave the powers. It's just like the generic, oh, they got hit by cosmic rays.
Cosmic rays. Yeah.
Yeah, who the fuck knows what cosmic rays really are? And I'm seeing a lot of people sort of say, oh, that could be the Fantastic Four. It could, I guess, but you know, space is so huge. Like there's so many energies out there that are
Mm.
undiscovered that haven't been even, you know, like I said, haven't been discovered. So it definitely could, but at least here in the context of WandaVision, in the context of the Mind Stone, I think the more solid connection is that the fact that you know Wong talks about it in Infinity War.
Yeah.
The Big Bang sort of birthed the Infinity Stone. So these powers, the CMBR, is very similar in energy to the Infinity Stone. So it's the Mind Stone. I do wonder if this barrier is sort of being created by some sort of Mind Stone replication that they're doing. It's interesting, and it's a great sort of thing to introduce here in the MC because I honestly thought that seeing beer was like a fake thing they invented for the show, fake
Yeah.
jargon they invented. But when I googled it, like holy shit, it's real,
Mm.
and I thought that's pretty cool. Yeah.
I also think like this ties everything together as well is that the technology that is highlighted with television rays is also based on a similar format of those rays. So that kind of is like the connective tissue that they're trying to do from a science standpoint is why it's a television show and why she can get the static to pretty much turn into a show on their television.
Yeah.
And I agree 100%. It's mostly probably that connection with the Infinity Stones because what we've kind of learned from Wanda is what makes her so interesting is that she pretty much is a living, breathing Infinity Stone.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. That's a
Yeah.
good. That's a good description.
And similar to Carol, and like if you think about it, there was the reference that the Infinity Stones could potentially live on to something else, and it feels like they're going towards this direction that they live within characters or like their energy is still living on because Carol got her energies from the Tesseract. We got the Mind Stone. Like that's the confusing thing is that the Mind Stone was used on Pietro and Wanda, but Wanda has reality-based abilities, so she technically is using abilities from the Reality Stone, while you could say that Quicksilver's speed is an effect from the Tesseract from the Space Stone because he's moving fast through space. So it makes me wonder if all the stones are connected, and that's why it just tapped into their potential and lent them with the abilities from specific stones that they are, let's say, or they have an affinity for. But it also opens up the question: could, for example, Kang the Conqueror, who we know is coming in Ant-Man 3, have an affinity and be connected to the Time Stone?
Mm.
Because that opens up that kind of question. So if he starts glowing green, you heard it here first.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting about that barrier because yeah, we can easily say that it's connected to the Mind Stone. It actually makes sense because in the outside world in the opening moments of the episode, because when the two cops are saying like they have selective amnesia because they don't know that they're from Westview. Like, they don't
There
know that
is no Westview right
there's
next to the
there's no
sign.
Westview. There's only an Eastview. So maybe the barriers or the connections of the people that are inside the Westview bubble. That's what I'm talking about in an
Mm.
article. I call it the Westview bubble. So
Yeah.
maybe maybe the Mind Stone has that effect towards the people and their closest friends or families that they ultimately forget Westview.
Well, we've seen Wanda manipulate people's minds in Sokovia. That's how she
Yeah.
got people to escape. So, like, that's the thing about Wanda. She pretty much can do almost anything from any of the Infinity Stones besides time travel, which could still be possible. And that kind of opens up the questions like how far does her abilities reach? Are we just kind of learning the limits of it through this series? But like that's also kind of the thing. I mean I love the moment with there is no vest view with the freaking sign in right in plain view. That was such a cute little joke.
Yeah.
But there's so many questions it opens up, and I kind of think that this is going to also determine pretty much how the multiverse will work moving forward. Because we got glimpses of it in Far From Home, and I think Wanda's pretty much exploration of the Infinity Stone's remnants or her abilities might also connect to how the multiverse truly starts to open from here on out.
It's going to be a crazy next set of weeks for us guys. How to break it down? I don't know. And we move on now to, of course, there's the references to the toy helicopter that's actually a sword drone, and the
Yeah.
beekeeper. Oh no, what happened to the beekeeper?
Probably
What are your
dead.
theories there?
I think he's the
Do you
ice
think
cream
Wanda
guy from the 3rd episode opening. The actor
really?
looks very similar.
I'll
Really?
check.
That's interesting.
I'll check that again later.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that.
That's kind of the
But
cool
if
thing about WandaVision is like for me, I watch a show and I kind of like watch it once, maybe like a few weeks later, give it a second shot before the next episode. I've been watching WandaVision episodes like at least 4 to 5 times just to figure out
really,
what is going on. I never do
holy,
that for any show. Not even Lost, I did that.
Wow.
wow. But the grim fate. I mean, the overarching theory on Twitter right now is, as you can see, because the overall question from Twitter right now is, did Wanda kill that beekeeper? I saw that many times in my timeline. So
Ooh.
it's gonna be, it's gonna be scary, so scary. Let's now move on to a WandaVision jump scare, guys. I didn't really expect that.
Oh
Vision's
yeah.
broken. Did you expect that at all? I mean, wow, that caught me off guard. What are your theories there? Do you think that Wanda um is controlling Vision's dead body, like a puppet, or I don't know? Charles, what about you?
I think it's something like that. I don't think it's the whole body, but this the Vision in the TV world clearly has a mind of his own.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
has his own consciousness. He has his own sentience. He can sort of figure out, oh shit, something's wrong. You know, at some point during this episode, we actually see Vision sort of he had to pause just to sort of think like, something is up, and I'm kind of fucking scared. For him to do that means he's just not like an imagination of Wanda who's who does her bidding at every whim. So it is very interesting to think how exactly this is happening. I think Wanda has at least a part of Vision with her wherever she is that sort of allows this Vision to exist in his own mind in this TV world. I
Mm.
don't know if
Yeah.
he's I don't know if it's like it's gonna be like a Weekend at Bernie's thing where she's like controlling the dead body, but I think it's clear from that moment, from that shot where we see dead Vision, some of that reality is sort of seeping into Wanda's world, and it's gonna be hard for her to sort of keep everything intact as more of these revelations come to her.
Mm.
Yeah. Before I go to Joe, I just want to point out that during episode 1 when Wanda said Vision helped him, like Vision immediately followed. But as the episode progresses, you realize that Vision is you notice that Vision is realizing something is wrong, like
Yeah,
slowly, right?
yeah.
Mm.
So Joe, what's your reaction to that? Like, I mean, your theory about Vision's dead body, since you've mentioned that you watched it 4 to 5 times over.
I mean, it was like the first time I watched it, that was creepy. Like that was I noticed that his color was off in the background. Like the scene we already knew. And I was like, why is his color so off? Or is it just muted for no reason? And then the moment you turn around, you see like that. It's kind of like, okay, the head wound already makes it bad, but it's the dead eyes, like with no iris or anything that just kind of sells the creepiness of it. It I do think so. Ironically, I jokingly wrote an article a week or so before where I said, "Oh, it's a Weekend at Bernie's situation where Agnes and Wanda are just like carrying this dead husk around." And then when I saw it, I was like, "Oh God!" It sounded funny in my head, but it's actually terrifying the more you think about it. And I think it's his body. I kind of don't see why she would just recreate his entire body out of nowhere. But what is interesting, and as you pointed out, is that he still is Vision. Like there's still a sentient being there, and it just kind of drives home the fact from Infinity War that Vision is more than the Mind Stone. He's evolved beyond to be just the Mind Stone. I think this is the kind of the result of that, where we're first seeing what that means. But the problem is that she kind of forced him into it way too early. It's I'm trying to think. There was a series where someone pretty much died and they put in the body but the soul was still alive. I think it was Disenchanted I watched. And his body, like he was in hell, so they got his soul back from hell and he was dying, but his body was still decomposing. So he literally was back in his body as it was decomposing. It's just like, I feel weird. Something's happening in his arm, and just they kind of ignore it, but it feels like that kind of scenario where he's kind of fallen apart, and she just kind of forced him in before fixing him, and now she has like this half dead, half alive synthezoid running around. I'm really curious. I'm really curious how it comes together, and the bigger question to me is, what does this mean for Vision's future moving forward?
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting if he's going to play a major role once again after WandaVision, because as we all know, Wanda is the only one joining Doctor Strange in Multiverse of Madness as of right now, based on our knowledge, based on what's been revealed. That we don't know if Vision is there. I hope yes, but let's see. But another interesting twist here, guys, that I came to realize upon browsing numerous WandaVision articles in the worldwide net. The main reason why Monica and Jimmy Woo went to Westview is a missing persons case, but the episode didn't actually name who's the missing person.
Yeah, it was odd.
Yeah, it was odd. So who do you think it is? Do you think it's Dottie because he wasn't there in the? We all know it's not Agnes. So do you think it's Dottie? Yeah, it's not Agnes. But do you think it's Dottie or someone else entirely? Charles?
Man, that was very weird. That was a very very peculiar weird omission from the whole episode. You know, for the first like 10 minutes they keep talking about a missing persons case, but we actually never know who the missing person is. So they're definitely keeping that a secret. It makes me think that, you know, I was gonna say while I was watching the episode, is it Agnes, because you know she's sort of the mystery character there. But when you see the sword board that they're sort of building there with all the images of them, Agnes clearly is someone else, and Dottie, yeah, like I said, she's missing. It makes me wonder if it is Dottie, or I saw someone say, what if it's a completely new character? I know some people are sort of maybe expecting Wonder Man or Grim Reaper to show up because they're brothers. I saw someone say that what if it's one of them because they have strong ties to Wanda and Vision. I don't think that's the case, but I'd be surprised if it is. Um, I've also some people say that what if it's Agnes's son, who in the comics is a bad guy in the comics, so it could be that.
Nicholas Scratch, right?
Yeah, Nicholas Scratch. Whatever the case may be, it is ultra super interesting that they're withholding who the missing person is. I'm sure it's gonna be a very very interesting reveal.
Yeah. Joe, how about you?
So the thing is what makes it interesting. It's not just a missing person; it's a missing person in the witness protection program.
Yes.
So they're hiding this person from someone or something, and the thing is, like, it sounds so weird because why would they set this up and not follow through? Like the episode sidelines it so easily, and why is Wu still there technically? Like Sword doesn't need Wu just because he saw her go in. So he might be there because of that. That might be the reason why Jimmy's still around. And there was that big reveal in one of the first featurettes, is that Wonder Man was like in the background. So I'm going to throw out a crazy theory. And I'll say, I think we haven't seen the person in the witness program yet, a witness protection program, because he does say that it's a he. At one point in the episode.
Does he say that?
He says he, yeah.
Oh, okay.
At least it could be that I misheard, but I think he said he. My theory would be is that perhaps it is in fact Wonder Man, who's being hidden from his brother. Because we did see the headgear from Reaper in the animated intro.
Yeah, episode 2, yeah.
So what if, like, for example, what if the male, like, we don't know all the characters, and I think they've been hiding a few in the background, especially in that, like, for the children event. So imagine, like, there's this side story of someone, like, suddenly during an episode where a sitcom episode, everything's fine, someone ends up dead. And it's someone hunting down whoever Wonder Man might be or is in this universe. I don't think, like, we know that Nathan Fillion almost played the character in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, but that was completely scrapped.
Yeah.
So it could be anyone. And I think it's going to be... We're going to get the reveal in this show, or at least a hint at who it could be, even if it's just Jimmy Woo arresting someone in the background. It could also have no bearing on the plot in any way possible, and it's just like a way of them to uncover that Westview is where it is. But I think it would be a really interesting twist. Especially, we have a sitcom world. Wonder Man is an actor.
That's true. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's very true. My thing with that is that if you sort of do that and introduce Wonder Man, it kind of seems like, you know, so many things are going on. For the most part, it is Wanda's journey.
Yeah.
This is Wanda's story. This is the story of, I guess, the multiverse cracking. I do wonder what the significance of Wonder Man is here. Like, okay, he's a missing persons case. He's in the witness protection program, but like, what does that mean exactly? Like you said, it could be Wonder Man, but it's totally like not important. I could see that happening where, oh shit, it's Simon Williams. He's hiding. He's being hidden from his brother, who's a supervillain. Great, that's amazing. But it's also not important. It's kind of like a silly Easter egg that we're doing. Like, I could see them doing that, but if they're gonna build up Wonder Man and Grim Reaper as this sort of, what if they're the bad guys here? What if, you know, the big fight is between them? It's gonna be definitely one of those things that feels shoehorned in, at least currently where we are in episode 4.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay. I just want to point out that it's a him. It's confirmed. I sent a screenshot.
Also, it's a he.
Yeah.
But it's none of the people they put on the wall, because otherwise they would have recognized, or at least Jimmy would have recognized them. That's why I think it's someone we haven't met yet.
It's a him. Holy shit. That's why.
Yeah, it's a him.
The thing is, I agree with you that introducing Wonder Man in that entire plight would be a bit much for the story. I kind of think that it doesn't have a bearing on Wanda's story directly, but rather, like, I think the most important character and why she was introduced early on as being in this show is Monica, and that's kind of why she goes through a similar arc that Wanda does, because Monica literally starts the season losing probably the one person in her life that she cherished the most. And that's kind of the parallel they're building up between Monica and Wanda, because she kind of just said, okay, I have to move on. I have to live my life, while Wanda is like clinging to it as much as possible.
Yeah.
And I wonder if, like, what if just Wonder Man just ends up being there as a foil because he kind of just like thinks, okay, I'm going to fit in, and he has his abilities, and it just kind of and his abilities counteract that of Wanda and create pretty much a crack in the multiverse. They could play on that as well. And that's kind of the crazy thing. We have no idea where this season is going. We all thought Herb was the freaking high evolutionary early on.
Yeah.
So it is so amazing how they combine like Easter eggs in clever ways, but they could literally do anything, and it wouldn't feel crazy. Like, Wonder Man makes sense considering his connection with Vision. What if Vision reincarnates in him, and that's what led her to find or bring him back in some way? You could go any angle with this, and that's kind of the crazy thing about it.
I agree. And at any rate, episode 4 proved that anything can happen. Like, you'll never see it coming, right?
Yeah.
Silver coat. It's going to be crazy next batch of episodes there. So, we've broke down almost all of the Easter eggs and the reveal here. So, let's go to that intense moment where Wanda kicked out Wanda kicks out Monica from that Westview bubble. So, based on that scene alone, guys, do you think that Wanda's in control or she's being controlled? Charles?
Um, yeah, it's hard because I like to think that she's just doing this on her own volition, but knowing Marvel and how they sort of like to build up entities and how they sort of want to seed things. We've always heard that Nightmare might sort of play a part in Doctor Strange too. It obviously makes sense that, oh shit, Nightmare is behind this. She's bringing Wanda's nightmares to life. I mean, it seems very very logical and almost too stupid to not too stupid to ignore. So I could see it being a case of both. Honest at this point.
Yeah. Joe, how about you?
Yeah, I'm pretty much on that theory as well. I kind of think that it's Wanda is in control, but she was not. I wouldn't say manipulated. She was just kind of given a deal she couldn't refuse, and that's kind of the scenario of how it ended up being her controlling this. But I don't see them, completely turning a important character for their future franchise into a full-on villain just for the sake of it. That's kind of how I see it.
And her red hex powers seem to be more powerful than ever in this in this post Endgame world, right? And based on the promos of the next episodes, and it's gonna getting more powerful as each episode progresses. And the terrified look of Monica is scary because, and when Wanda realizes that she's a stranger and an outsider, she just went full berserk and then push her out of the Westview bubble.
Not a very nice way to talk to strangers.
Yeah, and Monica had an interesting line at the ending. She said, "It's all Wanda," because since Wanda is the one responsible for kicking her out, it makes sense that she believes that Wanda is responsible for what's really happening in Westview.
True, yeah.
And that could be a potential conflict with Sword, and Sword will no doubt use all of its resources against Wanda. It's going to be an all-out battle between those two, and Sword is no match with Wanda, right, guys?
Yeah.
So, it's gonna be you're fucked. You're really fucked, and
You're fucked.
I'm really wondering if someone that we know will aid Sword in some way, or in the final 3 episodes, it's been being teased as the biggest of biggest WandaVision episodes. And it's very early to theorize on that. But let's hope that it's an Avenger or a Sorcerer, maybe. I don't know.
Tony Stark's coming back? What?
What?
That'd be fucking insane.
It's a hologram Tony Stark. Like, this is why we had the Sokovia Accords.
Yeah. Okay, so we've talked about all the big reveals. I guess I didn't miss one. I think we talked all about. Let's go to the rating of the episode. On a scale of 1 to 10, let's give our rating for episode 4 of WandaVision. I'll start. Episode 4. It's very surprising. It's very intense. It's fascinating to see what's happening in the real world MCU for the first time since Far From Home in a post-Endgame world. So I'll give it a 9 because the dynamic between Darcy and Jimmy Woo, it's amazing, and finally finding out what Sword is and catching up with characters from Captain Marvel and really finding out the outside perspective of the sitcom world and giving us answers, but also giving us questions down the line. Charles, how about you? 1 to 10. What's your rating for episode 4 of WandaVision?
Probably a 9 too, simply because of, like you said, the answers. It goes to show how important these answers are to us. Even though, like if you really think about it, it's nothing. The episode is nothing special. I mean, what truly is special are the sitcom ones, and this one is sort of like the basic Marvel fare where, oh, there's mystery, there's intrigue. But it's like it's like every Marvel movie. It's amazing, but I think to me it's just the answers. Seeing this world actually come together and start to make sense, sort of puts it up. That's probably my favorite episode so far.
Yeah. Joe, 1 to 10. Episode 4, WandaVision. Since you watch it 5 to 6 times, you mentioned it earlier.
I should not have said that. Yeah, I'm definitely giving it a 9 as well. I think in general, like on its own, the episode is technically like an 8 because it is more of a setup. It is a in between setup between what happened before. It explains a lot, so it's a lot of exposition dumps. But what does push it is pretty much the ending, the reveal at the end, the mystery that is unfolding. It's really interesting. I always like to compare it to like that feeling when Lost was released, but it's a bit of it was a slow burn. You didn't really get many answers until like 4 or 5 episodes in on anything, if you ever got any answers. So I think it does a lot right, and yeah, it was a great episode, and I'm really curious moving forward if they're going to start blending sitcoms with the real world, or if this is like the template we're going to use now.
Yeah. So it's a tie, 9/10. That's about wraps it up. That's a very insightful discussion for episode 4 of One Division. Listeners, how about you guys? What do you think of episode 4 of One Division? You can tweet us at twitter.com/MCUExchange. You can also listen to our previous episodes. That's Spotify. That's MCUExchange. On YouTube, MCUExchange. Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, and Anchor. That's all MCUExchange podcast. You can search that and preview our craziness or theories or speculations, all about MCU stuff. And you can also follow me on Twitter. That's twitter.com/AaronCino. That's AaronChino. You can also follow Charles on Twitter.
You can follow me on Twitter at CFS Villanueva.
You can also follow Joe on Twitter.
I'm at that Abel, ThatAberl.
And that's about wraps it up for another MCU themed WandaVision focus episode for the MCUExchange podcast. See you next week and stay safe, everyone. Bye.
Until
Bye.
next time.